Hey everyone, welcome back to Evo Inspires. I'm Miriam. I specialize in software development here in Sydney. And I'm super excited for today. We have Ed joining us, but before we get into today's questions and Ed's experience, I'll just pass it over to our guest to quickly introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Ed. I'm an engineering manager for a company called Objective. I started out early in my career doing design and web development and progressed from there into front-end engineering more specifically, and design systems and things like that, before progressing into more management and leadership roles. So I've been in those types of roles for probably about 8 to 10 years now.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited for today. So let's kick it off with our first question. So Ed, could you tell me one piece of career advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
Sure. So I think what's really important for people who are early in their careers is to be a problem solver. That might sound obvious enough, but I think when a lot of people start out in their careers, they see themselves as a designer or a software engineer, or, I write React code. But considering how quickly the world moves and how quickly things change, what's really more important is that you are able to identify problems for customers, problems for the business, problems for your team, and proactively find ways to solve those. Because doing that not only is going to make you really stand out within your team and to your boss, it's going to mean that you have more impact on customers and on the business or whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's going to help you develop leadership skills that are going to really help accelerate your career as you move forward. And so I think, a lot of people constrain themselves to their job title, and instead you should just be looking for problems all around you in the way that you work or your team works, and start trying to solve those problems.
Amazing. And I feel like I can learn a lot from that, even myself in my own career, coming with solutions straight away. I feel like definitely when I started out, that was not in my mind, but now for sure it's something I'm learning to, come with solutions straight away. So that's so interesting you point that out.
Thank you.
Awesome. And moving on to the next question, could you please share a pivotal moment in your own career journey that you think has made a significant impact?
Absolutely. So I remember an experience where I was working for a company. I had a boss, very, very good boss. He was a great problem solver and very good at supporting me, dealing with issues that I had. But sooner or later, he ended up resigning and moving to another company, and I was promoted into his role. And all of a sudden realized I no longer had this person above me to deal with all of these problems that I had. And I had this epiphany of realizing that I actually never needed him to solve those problems for me. I was always capable of it. And I just needed that forcing function of no longer having that person around me to be, holding my hand and solving my problems. And actually I could have just done a lot of that for myself. And so understanding that there are all of these things that I don't really need others to unblock or solve for me has been important. But I think you can evolve that thinking and start to realize that your boss is dealing with a whole bunch of things. And if you can also, instead of bringing problems to them and making, more challenges for them, instead find ways to make their life easier, even to the point of, they might mention something that's painful for them or problematic. You could offer to try to solve that for them. And so if you become the type of team member who's making your boss's life easier, you're going to be immensely valuable to that person rather than being just another drain on their time and resources.
100%. And that's so valuable for those kind of junior and mid-level professionals out there currently. That's some great advice. And moving on to the final question for today is, how do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life, and what's your go-to strategy for overcoming those?
This is a really interesting question. And, the more I think about it, when we talk about challenges, setbacks, big things coming up that you have to deal with, whether it's work related or in your personal life, for me, the one thing I've found that underlies all of those is that it's really about mental resilience. And so rather than, speaking about specific tactics or strategies for dealing with things, I think what's most important for people to understand is that building resilience and focusing on your mental health in a proactive way is really, really critical. And, for most of my career, probably the first 10 or 20 years of it, I was very reactive to it. I'd get into points where my mental health was suffering. I was approaching burnout, layers of stress were building up. And, that's really too late. When you have challenges coming at you, you want to be at a point where your tank is already full because you've been proactive and looking after your mental health. So for everyone that could be different, but is it exercise, getting plenty of sleep, mindfulness, what you eat, what you drink, all of those tools to ensure that you're mentally in a good state is really important for dealing with these challenges. And then from there, you can add additional points to that. I think something that I've found to be really useful, and this is counterintuitive, but learning not to care so much about certain things. It's
yeah.
I see this all the time, and I've had this problem myself for a long time where there are things that are outside of my control that I worry way too much about. I can't do anything about that. I'm losing mental energy worrying about it. And there are things that are inside my control that I probably still worry too much about. And in the grand scheme of things, are they really that important? And so what I've found is, learning that, not caring so much about certain things actually makes me better at my job, because it means I'm not draining myself of energy worrying about things that don't deserve it. And the final point I'd make here is, and this is a more complicated thing to learn, and it's taken, it's something I'm still working on, and I'm in my early 40s now, but learning how to really take control of your thoughts and being able to recognize, your mind and your thoughts and your ego aren't you. And how you respond to certain situations and certain challenges is entirely within your control. And I see this in a lot of other people, and I've seen it in myself, where you get swept up in things that are happening at work, and maybe somebody says something to you that pisses you off, or you react badly to something, or you don't want to go to work, or whatever it is, or maybe you've been made redundant, maybe it's something much more serious. But you get to choose how you respond to that, and you can choose to override that negative voice in your head and rise to a more conscious point. And if you can get good at that, then all of these challenges, whether they're like constructive challenges or setbacks, they become so much easier to manage, and you're so much more likely to have a better outcome off the back of it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think someone said to me recently about like the outcome doesn't belong to you. It's kind of to your point, how you can only focus on your inputs, and the outputs, you can't control.
Yeah, that's right. And there's things that, even the things that you do control, you have to look at the grand arc of time, right? We're here for a while, and there are things that to you might be really serious right now, but at a certain point in time, they're not going to be that serious. And so the more you can, be in the present and appreciate the journey, and the less you worry about the future or dwell on the past, then, the easier you're going to be able to ride those waves and deal with those challenges.
Yeah, that's so true. One person said to me, is when you're worrying about a problem, is this going to matter in 6 months?
Yeah.
And I use that all the time. I'm like, is this going to matter in 6 months? I'm like, nope, don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. That's awesome that you brought that up. And I think you had some amazing advice for those junior and mid-level professionals out there that are listening to this. So I definitely took something away from it. So thank you so much for your time, Ed. That is all we have time for. But I really appreciate your time and thank you for coming on.